Alright, what's up, everybody? Back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys having a good one. Today, we're doing the second episode of the new series, The Look-In. Looking at NBA teams and what they did this season, what their bright spots, weak spots, their future, what direction they go in, stuff like that. And today's episode is the San Antonio Spurs. If you missed episode 1, go check out my first one. It was about the Detroit Pistons. And now we're doing the Spurs. If you do like the content, consider subscribing, turn notifications on, stuff like that. I really appreciate it. Really upset a lot. Very excited for this series to continue. And let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. So the Spurs this season, they have not played their last game as I'm recording this. They play later today. They're 21-60, worst in the West. So if they're gonna finish the season 22-60 or 21-61, one of those. But yeah, the Spurs. We all knew coming into the season it was a rebuilding year for the San Antonio Spurs. Even before the season, Greg Popovich came out and told everybody, like, don't bet on us. Like, we're going to be bad this year, basically. He's what he said. So don't expect anything. And that's what they did. They came out there bad this year. Which is funny because they actually started the year, like, the first, like, month-ish of the year. They're actually, like, kind of competitive and in playoff and playing seeds. And then they just fell. And Greg Popovich was like, nope. And they just fell. They're the only team that looked like they were actually, like, trying to lose games and trying to tank. And they did it successfully. Got the worst record in the West. Well, potentially, depending on if they win and the Rockets lose, which unlikely, but could happen. Whatever. But we know what you mean. They're gonna be bottom of the West and bottom 4 team, which is what they wanted. But the thing is, I really like the San Antonio Spurs season this year. Like, take away the wins and losses and all that stuff. Just looking at the players that they have and the development that some of the players made and some of the gems they found. Like, I really am like the San Antonio Spurs year. Keldon Johnson continuing to make strides. He averaged 22, 5, and 3. He shot 45% from the field, 33% from 3, 75% from the free throw line. Had some big games where he took over. And he just continues to improve his play. Continues to be the best player on the Spurs. Yeah, I really like to see what I saw from him. Big thing for them this year, Devin Vassell. Devin Vassell would have probably been in most improved player conversations if he played enough games. But Vassell, in his limited time, he averaged 18.5 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. He shot 44% from the field, 38% from 3. Coming out of Florida State into the NBA, he was considered to be a 3-and-D kind of wing. And he showed a lot of that this year, but also be able to kind of create for himself and go get his own when he need to. I always like to see. But then again, he only played in 38 games, which really sucks. I would have loved to see him play a lot more and see what he could have done. But Spurs have a really good player in there in Devin Vassell, and he's going to be in the NBA for a while if he continues to do that. Trey Jones has a big improvement, became their starting point guard. He averaged 13, 3, and 6 with a steal. He shot 45% from the field. He has a couple triple doubles. Really high IQ player. You know, the Jones brothers, they know they can play some basketball. They got some high IQs. But yeah, Trey Jones had a really good year. Their top pick, Jeremy Sohan, very solid rookie year as well. Averaged 11, 5, and 2. Shot 45% from the field. Only 24% from 3. He shot 69% from the free throw line with his one-handed free throw routine. Yeah, I think Jeremy Sohan's a kind of a staple over there in San Antonio as well. A very unique play style. Defensively can do a lot. Very versatile there. But then offensively as well. Three-point shot isn't there yet, but you could tell is improving. He can facilitate a little bit. He can attack the rim. Like, he's very, very unique player. You don't see players like Jeremy Sohan come around a lot. So he's very unique. He had a really good rookie year. But then they also had a lot of gems that they kind of found that worked out. Zach Collins, who basically feels like hasn't played in the NBA in 20 years, came out and actually was really good for them this season. He averaged 11 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. He shot 51% from the field, 37% from 3, 76% from the free throw line. Did really well on both ends. And even Greg Popovich already came out and said he's going to be the starting center next year for the Spurs. Well, depending on if they draft Wemby or not. But, he had a really improved year. He was healthy. He played 63 games. After Jakob Porto was traded, he became the starting center, and he looked really good on both ends. Really nice to see him do that. Malachi Branham, their mid-first round pick. I really am a fan of him. He averaged 10 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists per game this season. He shot 43% from the field, 30% from 3, 82% from the free throw line. When he started to play and got into a rhythm, he looked really good. He had a couple 20-point games, very efficient. He does well. I talked about him in a video when I talked about 3 rookies that deserve more attention. Go watch it. But yeah, Malachi Branham. I feel like it's gonna be a really solid piece for the Spurs. Just a scoring wing that can also facilitate maybe a little bit. Keita Bates-Diop has some solid moments. He was well for this team. Charles Bassey, who's a G League player, got a full-time contract with San Antonio. He played pretty well. Julian Champagnie has played the 14 games for San Antonio this year, and lately he's been doing good. He's averaging 10 points in those 14 games. Mamu Kalashvili got cut by Milwaukee, got to San Antonio. He looked solid. Doug McDermott had a 30-point game recently. Like, the Spurs just have a lot of young guys that they kind of just give chances, and they looked pretty good and revived some careers like Zach Collins, which I really like to see. Even Devontae Graham got traded over there and had like a big start to his Spurs tenure. I think his first game he dropped like 30, like hit like 8 threes or something randomly. Again, he's not in the future plans, but just showing like the Spurs just have a lot of players that have developed and become gems over there and become really good over there. Yeah, I really like to see it, especially for a young team. That's why I love young teams like this that just give young players that haven't really gotten a lot of attention or gotten a lot of playing time some time. Like Zach Collins. Zach Collins was a lottery pick. Went to Portland. Had some little moments, but the injury bug, he just couldn't stay healthy. Kind of disappointed. Then he's a free agent. The Spurs sign him. Takes him a little bit, but then they give him an opportunity, and he looks good. Now he could be potentially a starting center next year. Just stuff like that is really, really nice to see. I love their rookies, Sohan and Branham as well. Blake Wesley still has some development to do. But then he's really young. So it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get there. Even they have like Dominic Barlow playing, who played for Overtime Elite, and he's randomly playing games. Yeah, the Spurs, I really like what they're doing. I really like the start of this rebuild. Just getting a bunch of young players and just trying them out and seeing what works. Keldon Johnson right now is a staple in there. Devin Vassell is in there. Trey Jones is in there, or should be in there at least. Zach Collins should be in there. Sohan Branham should be in there. Maybe Julian Champagnie, or like a Keita Bates-Diop can be in there. Like, they're finding the pieces. They're finding pieces right now, finding young players that work, and kind of trying to develop them into what they can potentially can be. And they're starting out really well. I like that. But I'm more interested about the draft for the San Antonio Spurs, because honestly, I feel like they're in a very unique position. Looking at them and then looking at all the other teams kind of around their kind of area, kind of like Detroit, Charlotte, Houston, even like Portland. And then I think the Spurs are very in a unique scenario where I feel like no matter what pick they get, I feel like they're good with it, Like, I don't feel like there are other teams where they need to have a top 3 pick, or else it's like, oh man. Like, I feel like the Spurs can get kind of any pick around the top 5. Obviously, they can't drop to like 12 or anything, but any pick within the top 5, and I feel like, or maybe even like 6, and I feel like San Antonio it could be okay. Like, obviously, if they get Wemby, I feel like if I had to choose a team that I would want Victor Wembanyama to go on to the most, I feel like it is the Spurs. Because I feel like the Spurs are kind of the only team that doesn't have like a franchise piece for the future, Like, even the teams that are around there, like Detroit has Cade Cunningham, as a guy that can be a multiple-time All-Star, can be the franchise piece. Rockets have Jalen Green, that potentially could be an All-Star. The Hornets have LaMelo. Portland, Dame, but then they also have Shaden Sharp, Anthony Simons. The Spurs, I feel like, are the only team that doesn't really have that piece of like, this dude could be a potential future All-Star. Like, Keldon Johnson is very, very good. Don't get me wrong. I really like Keldon Johnson. But I don't see him as a multiple-time All-Star, kind of your best player, franchise guy. I feel like his perfect role would be like maybe a number 2, or maybe a really good third option. Maybe kind of like a Tobias Harris type of role, I feel like. Like Tobias Harris before this year, maybe like last year Tobias Harris. He was like the third guy. Go out and get you 17, 18, but also can explode for big 28, 30-point games. But also can kind of get back into a third role and give you 15, 16 points and be consistent. Like, I feel like that's Keldon Johnson's perfect role. Maybe he does prove me wrong. But as of right now, I feel like that's what Keldon Johnson is. And the Spurs don't have a piece that could be like, all right, this is our guy for the future, and this is the dude that we want that could be a multiple-time All-Star. And I feel like Wemby going to San Antonio would just be great for that. The Spurs will finally get that guy of like, okay, this is the dude. And it's just, yeah, the Spurs just get lucky like that sometimes. Like Spurs got David Robinson. They went from David Robinson to Tim Duncan. They went from Tim Duncan to Kawhi and LaMarcus Aldridge. From that, it's like the Spurs always have a guy. It feels like all the time they always have a guy, and now they don't have one. And I feel like Wemby would be the perfect. It's just the perfect time for Wemby to get to San Antonio, as well. Kind of like what Orlando Magic was. Like Orlando had a bunch of really good players at Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter. They had all these guys, but they didn't have the one guy that could be, okay, this dude can be a multiple-time All-Star. And then the Magic get Paolo. And Paolo's their guy now. And now look, they're making strides. This could be the same thing for San Antonio. They don't have their guy. They have a lot of good players like Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Trey Jones, stuff like that. And then you bring in Wemby, and it's like, oh, okay, now he's the guy. Or even if they don't get number one, Scoot Henderson will still be in there. Scoot Henderson still can be a multiple-time All-Star as well. And that would be really good for them as well. Brandon Miller. I don't know if I could see Brandon Miller that much in San Antonio, but I feel like they've found a way to work it out somehow with Brandon Miller. And then even like one of the Thompson twins. I feel like one of the Thompson twins, I think Amen Thompson is the one that's projected to go a little higher. But even like him over there, I feel like be very good. The Spurs get some kind of pop in there with Amen Thompson. And he has potential to be a star as well. Even like get a Cam Whitmore. Like I feel like the Spurs can't really go wrong in the draft this upcoming year. From my opinion, at least, I feel like the Spurs, whoever they take, like I feel like whatever pick they land up and whoever the guy they take, I feel like they can't really go wrong with it, and it could come in and fit their system. You know, of course they want the Wemby or the Scoot. That would be the ideal situation, obviously. But even if they do end up with one of the Thompson twins or a Cam Whitmore, I feel like it'd be very good for them, and they can still make it work. You know, they're not desperate for we need Wemby, type of thing. But yeah, again, if there's a team that I want Wemby to go to most, is San Antonio. I feel like that would be a really perfect fit right there for them. But yeah, I feel like San Antonio is starting off a great rebuild. They already have the pieces that are getting in place. The young players that are taking strides and developing, and like little gems they've found that have been developed and become pretty solid. And now all they really need is their guy of the future, their guy that they can invest into and be like, all right, this is the dude that is going to be the future. This guy is the future of our team. This is the dude that we want to be our franchise, our face of the franchise when we start being ready to make playoff pushes again and stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of Greg Popovich, if he's coming back or not, I would think yeah. Honestly, I think he will come back for another year. Especially, I think if they get Wemby, I think he's definitely coming back for another year. If they get Wemby or Scoot, I think he's definitely coming back for one more year. Just because I feel like it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't get the feeling that it's over yet with Greg Popovich. I could be wrong. Obviously, I could definitely be wrong, but I just get the feeling I don't think he's ready to go yet. But yeah, very excited to see what the Spurs' future holds and what this draft holds for them. I think that's the most important thing I'm looking forward to for San Antonio. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you do the content, consider subscribing, like, turn on notifications, all that stuff like that. This is episode 2 of The Look-In, and be ready for the next episode. Episode 3 later today, and I will see you guys tomorrow.